There's the stereotype of sopranos in opera. Are you a diva?
I am a diva for sure.
When people think of opera, they think of glamour.
The places you warm up is not very glamorous. It's most of the times in a toilet.
What would you tell people who have never been to the opera? Why would you tell them to go?
It is a timeless art form. The characters are really allowed to fully fall into these emotions in such a pure way that I think we don't really allow ourselves. I myself cry a lot in the opera, and it's just something very important, I feel.
Take that, Timothée Chalamet. Nicole, we share a first name. We're both called Nicole, but you've had many names. Berta, Serafina, Enchen. Perhaps a name that most listeners will actually recognize is Queen of the Night. So how do people react when you tell them that you're a professional opera singer?
There's definitely always a moment of, oh, all right, because of course you don't hear it every day. And then there is usually a bunch of questions like, okay, but how did you do that? Is that something you study? What do you do every day? Do you just sing all day long? How do I have to imagine this? What is this lifestyle like? Of course, a lot of questions come. In general, what I like is that no matter whom I talk to, there is always a bit of interest and excitement, even if it's people that are not interested in opera or don't go see it. There's interest, which I like, and I always hope that I can also maybe get them to go see one day, even if I'm not in it.
So how did you end up here? Of course, we know each other, so I know your backstory. But for people who are just getting to know you, when did you realize that you could and wanted to become an opera singer?
So, as you said, we have a backstory together. We got to know each other when we were children in the children's choir in Oper Zürich. And that's definitely where it first sparked my passion for it. I mean, not passion in the grown-up sense, more in the child sense. I mean, it was fun, it was playful. We got to put on costumes, we got to play roles. We got to get into these entire worlds. And I loved it so much. And I remember one day telling my mom, I wish I could do this every day. And then she told me in a very simple way, well, then you'll have to become an opera singer. So I was like, all right, yeah, then I will do that. And of course, I mean, that was just the beginning. I was still a child, and then of course I had some detours. I was quite serious about the violin for a while there. I wanted to be a violinist. I was also very into literature, into writing, so I also considered journalism. So of course I had different ideas. And because I was very serious about the violin, I actually ended up taking singing lessons because I already had a violin teacher that I was very attached to, and we worked very well together. So since I had to take an instrument in school, I decided to not take violin because I already have a teacher. And I was like, you know what? I always wanted to train my voice a bit more because I always had so much fun in the chorus, and I could also feel that there is some potential there. I mean, it's a very physical sensation that you have where you feel like, okay, this voice is strong. I think I could do a lot with it. So I decided to take voice lessons, and I was actually even more into musical back then. So I came to the singing teacher and I was like, I want to do Elphaba. And she was like, yeah, sure. But let me show you something first that is almost a musical. And then she made me sing Aria Antiche from the 16th century. So she kind of tricked me a little bit. But I did also at some point realize that even if I do love musical, I enjoy singing the classical style way more. So then we really got into it, and she at some point asked me if I would like to join the program for gifted music students who want to prepare for entering a conservatory, but already during school. And I was very competitive. I had fun showing off, so I was like, yeah, sure, let's do that. And I entered that program. I was accepted, so I started having master classes with other students who played all kinds of instruments. We got to record a CD, which was a lot of fun, and also we were asked to get in touch with singing teachers from the conservatories. So I did that more in a pro forma way, but then it just started more and more being very clear that this could be a very good path for me, that there is a lot of potential there, a lot of people who would support me. There was a lot of positive feedback. It was easy for me, at least then it was. I sang with a lot of instinct. It was fun and it worked. So at some point I was like, okay, yes, let's get into this. But it was always clear from the get-go, as when I started this, that I would become an opera singer, because you could specialize in lead, you could become a concert singer. There are many ways you can be a singer. But when I entered music college, for me, it was clear, like opera all the way.
So what does it mean to be an opera singer, and what kind of opera singer are you? Because for people who might be hearing this for the first time, there are different voices. What is that like?
First is like very simple categorization: soprano, mezzo, tenor, bass, and then of course there's the alto, there's baritone. So they are compartmentalized by range. And then it becomes more specific, and there it becomes more complex. There are dramatic sopranos who have very loud, often rather dark timbered voices, but some of them also are extremely metallic, so they have a lot of overtones which they need to punch through the orchestra. Because the thing is, when you sing opera, of course you have to be loud, but being loud doesn't always mean like force. It just means creating an extremely big range of overtones in your sound. So a sound is always like composed with a lot of different frequencies. And even when you talk and when you whisper, when you form consonants, you have always extremely high frequencies in your sound, which help make you understood, even when you're whispering. And in opera singing, you kind of have to curate these extremely high frequencies, because they will travel through the extremely loud orchestra sound, because you're literally like 1 against 100. What you need is these high frequencies that travel through. So a lot of dramatic voices have this very strongly. Then there are lighter voices that are more brilliant and soft. There are voices that are extremely good at singing extremely high notes. The high repertoire is often combined with coloratura. So yeah, there you see like the different qualities. For me, I would call myself a coloratura soprano. I sing extremely high notes. That's why I do the Queen of the Night, for example, that has these very infamous high F staccatos. But there is a lot of different repertoire that goes in the same direction. So this is something that I feel very comfortable with, that I also managed to move forward with in my career. But then, also when it comes to my voice, the specifics become a bit more complex because of the color of the voice. A lot of people also call me like lyrical, dramatic. Some of them also would maybe consider, because of that, the high repertoire is not for me. But there is also the voice type dramatic coloratura soprano. So, there are voices who combine both, who have like quite a lot of weight in the voice, but then also can travel very high up. So yeah, but there it's a bit also up for discussion, and it also always depends how convincing you are in what you sing.
You obviously have a gift, you have a great voice, but that's not enough to make it as an opera singer. So what did it take for you to reach this point and make it as a professional?
Yeah, there is a lot that factors in this career. I think it's also something we're still analyzing and figuring out as a group of professionals. Like, what exactly does it take to make it? Of course, a lot of luck. You have to be in the right place at the right time. You have to find people who support you, who advocate for you. This is extremely important. You definitely need a lot of discipline in many different ways. Like I also remember like the difference between being disciplined as a violinist and being disciplined as a singer. As a violinist, it was a lot about practicing at least 5 hours. 8 would be better. Like just a lot of practice time and a lot of training. And with the singing, it's more about also being disciplined in your lifestyle, sleeping enough, eating well, not drinking too much, no smoking, no spicy foods. I mean, also there it varies. Every singer needs different things. Some singers try to avoid coffee or chocolate, like very acidic foods because of the reflux. Like there is a lot that you have to take care of a lot of your instrument, which is your body. So this requires a lot of discipline. And also, yes, the practicing part, you have to be a very reflective person. Like you have to be very mindful when you practice. You have to, because you don't have the instrument in front of you, so you don't see all the issues. You're kind of blind. You have to feel very well, okay, how is this working? You have to record yourself, listen very well. You need a lot of stamina and a thick skin, because I think there's hardly any singer out there who hasn't had major setbacks. It just happens, and you kind of have to not get discouraged and keep going. And I think also be very intelligent in finding good fuel for your passion, and not just the one, oh, I want to go on stage, I want to be a star. You have to start diversify your whys. You have to figure out what fuels you beyond that. So you have to be very intelligent with that, with your own psyche, with your own mindset. Yeah, you have to have a very good immune system. You have to know how to take care of yourself and get through also shows when you're sick and when you're traveling a lot. How you can protect yourself. Yeah, that's what comes to mind at the top of my head. I'm sure there is a lot more.
So let's take the Magic Flute as an example, because I think that is one opera that many people know who maybe also don't go to the opera so frequently. The Queen of the Night. What does it take to prepare for a role like that? So what happens with you and with the production as a whole to actually get that on stage?
I mean, the Magic Flute also is one of the most played operas for a reason. So it's done a lot, and it's a role that is definitely always growing and developing. I've met so many queens now because I've done so many productions, and some of them have done Queen of the Night for 10, 15 years, and they're still developing it because the voice keeps developing, the body keeps developing. So you always have to have a fresh perspective on it, and it's always like, okay, how do we do this now? I know we've been doing it for years, but how do we do it today? So it definitely teaches you a lot to not be stuck in your ways, and to always develop your technique. So you prepare it every time you're in a new production of of magic flute, you have to update it and prepare it again. And then it also depends on what the director is asking of you. A lot of them are, of course, aware of how tough it is. So most of them don't make you sing it like in a handstand or something. Like they are aware, okay, you need to be kind of, you need your alignment. You need to maybe stand in one place or just move very mindfully and in the way you can. So usually you have a lot of freedom to develop your stage presence. And then you just keep figuring out what you need. I think it comes with experience. You're getting used to being a very creative force while also being someone who executes. So you still have someone telling you what to do, but you also learn to make it your own because you have to, because you're the one on stage. So that's a very specific dynamic that just comes with experience.
So you're a queen on stage. You said you've met many queens. There's the stereotype of sopranos in opera that they are queens. They act like divas. Are you a diva, or what is your experience? What is it like to be an opera singer? I am a diva
for sure. But I also grew to redefine the word diva. I think in a lot of cases, it simply means, as I said, asking for what you need, setting boundaries in order to do your job well, because you're the one on stage, you're the one having to convey whatever is happening on stage. So you have to learn a little bit. I mean, of course, you have to make sure that you don't like overdo it, of course. That's what I meant. Like, you have to figure out a bit your wiggle room, like how much space do I need to take up in order to do my job well? It is definitely something that you have to be aware of and something that you need to do. It's not only just like something you can't help yourself but doing. It's also something you need to be aware of, because of course you can be always compliant, but it can affect your work, and then you're doing yourself a disservice and the production. So in that sense, I would say, yes, I'm a diva. And I think, yes, a lot of singers need to be a bit of a diva and are. But in general, like, of course, in the way we perceive it as a cliche, I don't perceive it a lot when I'm working. It's a lot of very down-to-earth people who work so hard, and they travel so much. They're on their own a lot, and they often have, I mean, it depends, of course, a bit how your career goes, but a lot of them also have quite frugal lifestyle, because you need to save a lot of money also in order to travel for auditions and everything. So I would rather call most of them very down to earth, very kind, because we also all know that it's a very vulnerable process to work through a role. And especially with sopranos, I've more often than not had the experience of being very kind and uplifting to one another, which I think is really amazing. Especially like the queens. Like, I have one friend that I shared the role with, and we're still in touch. We talk a lot, and sometimes we also send each other videos to kind of give each other feedback, or maybe one of us is like, listen, I'm extremely stuck here. I don't know how to make it work. And then we can help each other, which is very nice.
When people think of opera, they think of glamour and just the rich people going, and everything is glittering and perfect. What are things that maybe aren't as glamorous, things that would surprise people who don't know this industry?
The lifestyle itself is not that glamorous, especially because you have to travel a lot and often at your own expenses, or let's say you budget it yourself, like you decide yourself how much you spend on it. So, and often it turns out to be in a way that maybe is not extremely glamorous. Like you will not always pick the first class leather seats in the plane. So yeah, the traveling is not always comfortable. You have to make sure that your vocal cords are protected. So a lot of singers travel with humidifiers, for example, so that they can that they don't get dried out vocal cords. You have to carry a lot of stuff around with you. You bring concert gowns, you bring a yoga mat, you bring whatever you need to prepare your body. And the concert gowns are another aspect. Like they are beautiful, they look amazing. But for me, for example, it always feels funny to step into it because it's more like a work uniform. And often I know that I've been like carrying it around for months and maybe they don't smell amazing. So yeah, there is a lot, going on that is not that glamorous. You aren't always extremely comfortable. You do a lot of yoga in hotel rooms. You have always so many different kinds of medicine, not in the sense that you're sick, just to keep the vocal cords intact and moist and everything. So yeah, there's a lot more to it that is not that glamorous.
One thing that's always fascinated me when I walk into an opera house and when I'm in the backstage area is just hearing all these different sounds of singers getting ready for the show, singing their scales, warming up. What does the preparation for a performance look like for you? What is your warm-up routine, or what do you do to be ready to go on stage?
That's another thing that I forgot to mention. Like the places you warm up is not very glamorous. It's most of the times in a toilet. So what I like to do on the day of a performance is some yoga video. I have like a collection on my YouTube channel. Like I have a couple of yoga routines from different yoga instructors online that I know work very well to prepare for the singing. Like a lot of them that tend more to the spine, that works with twists, where you can do a lot of breathing work, where you can activate the pelvic floor muscles that you need a lot. And for me, I have kind of started establishing for myself that before I sing, I do a yoga where there is more stretching involved. And when I'm not singing anymore, I do a workout or something like that. But there you have to rest more after it. So at least that's my experience, but it can differ because bodies are different. So I start with that. When I'm traveling a lot and feel that I'm maybe also a bit tense, there are a lot of things you can do to kind of ease the stress. If I feel I need it, I do a lot of inhalation with steam. Like it's very simple. You just cook some water and then put your head over it. There are some massage techniques that you can use. There are a lot of very soft vocalizing that you can do that is really more just to kind of work the edges of the vocal cords. So there's a lot of that. Ideally, like when I know that I really have a very tough performance ahead of me, like something with a lot of high notes, something that is very intense and needs a lot of focus, I also like to do a first warm-up around noon and maybe really kind of test everything out and then rest again before I do the second one before the performance. So this is what I usually try to do.
So what would a warm-up look like? Could you take me through some exercises that you would do? And the reason why I'm asking that is because I know they might be really funny to people who have never Never heard or seen what singers do before a show.
So you want me to show that?
If you don't mind.
Let's see if I can do it on the spot. I mean, I always have like some favorite vocalizing, and it keeps changing. Like sometimes, because there's always a bit of imbalance, and sometimes you need to tend more to like the softness, and sometimes you need to tend more to the focus. And sometimes it's more about how you support and everything. So these days, usually I start with something like so to really work the breath support very well, and like I said, like the edges of the vocal cords. I do a lot of these kinds of warm-ups with consonants, also like that just helps to kind of keep the breath support even. It depends a bit. So there's also, for example, like the something like this that just really helps you find the focus without like pushing your voice into it. I think a bit of a cliche one is the that is also in the same category. Oh, sorry. So this is something that I usually start with, and then these days, I mean, as I said, it can vary, and it's probably not everyone would do it that way. But these days, I like to, after that, really start once warming up into my extreme high notes. Like not directly, of course. It's like yo, like I don't sing in full voice now, but usually like this kind of octave arpeggio that you can work your way up to your highest notes. And I like to do that because I feel that it opens up my voice completely. And having a completely opened up instrument helps me, even if I just need like the middle part. For me, it's like a give and take situation, like the high notes support the center and the center grows the high notes. For me, that's the experience. A lot of singers like to be more frugal with their high notes, which I get and is a totally fair take. I think everyone has to kind of find what works for them. For me, I kind of started considering my voice as a car, and you kind of every now and then you just have to drive it. You cannot just be in the garage. Like especially when I'm talking about high notes, I'm like every now and then you need to use them. Also to keep the voice in its natural habitat as it is intended, as it is predisposed. Maybe you can say it like that. So this is like the short version. Sometimes these days I also like to do something that really helps me portion my breath well. I don't know if I can do it on the spot. Cut it out if I can.
We can always cut it. If the microphone explodes and the glass shatters.
Like these days, I often do also like to kind of have a very long run, and to kind of train the very calm support that you don't start like pushing or going out of breath. Because these days I'm doing a production in which I need to be very mindful with my breath support because I'm moving a lot, and I had a bit of problems with getting out of breath for my phrasing. So I give that more attention. So as I said, it keeps changing around whatever you need. You can do some glissando as well. and do stuff that helps you more like train the flexibility of the voice, like to kind of have messa di voce, to kind of have this flexibility there, train with piano so that you don't that because that helps you make sure that you're not like pushing, like these kinds of things. Yeah.
So now you've done your warm-up. Take me to the moment where you're stepping on stage, ready to sing. What is going through your mind in that moment?
It depends very much on what I'm doing. I remember like one of my first performances as Queen of the Night. I was waiting behind the stage and like ready to get on stage. It might have even been my debut, so I might have been a bit nervous. And my first Queen of the Night I did in Como. And I had an extremely heavy crown that was like this high, with like a lot of ornamentations that were like this around my head. So, and it was like extremely difficult to like stay balanced. It was extremely heavy. And I had like this beautiful gown. Like it was an amazing costume. It was just also a bit tricky to be in. And I was like ready to go on stage. And I was like, of course, now I have to go to the toilet. Like now I have to pee, of course. And these are like these fun little moments when you also kind of have this internal monologue, like, listen, bladder, I'm so sorry, but you'll have to like take it back. We can't do this right now. And like you'd be surprised, like a lot of times it happens and you're like, oh, thank you. Now I'm ready. So that happens to me a lot, that I'm like, of course, now that I'm like behind stage, ready to go on stage, I have to pee. So that is always a bit funny. But usually like the adrenaline on stage, like whatever you have, like whether you have to pee or whether you have like a hiccup or maybe you're a bit sick or whatever, like the adrenaline helps you forget all of it. And then maybe you go like once the performance is done, maybe you implode, like whatever happened before. But during the performance, you can kind of just, it washes all off you. So this is something that happens a lot. It's often also just like being extremely present, like being ready to get out. I often also have these kinds of thoughts. Like I'm not a person that has a lot of stage fright. I actually really enjoy my time on stage. I'm a warrior in life, but on stage I kind of I lose it, which is why I like going on stage so much. But if I ever feel a bit nervous, especially when I sing high notes, and I'm like, of course, when you're a high coloratura soprano, you feel extremely exposed, because if you don't bring it, people will know. Especially when you sing Queen of the Night, if you don't bring the F, people will know. So of course that can be stressful, because a lot of mistakes maybe are not noticeable to an audience, but like when high notes don't work out, it's going to be noticeable. And maybe sometimes you try it out in the dressing room and it didn't work, and you're like, well, it's too late now. We're going to just go and see if it works out on stage. And I often, when I stand there waiting, I have this moment of like, listen, this performance is going to move forward no matter what you do. And at some point, it's going to be done. And whether you sing amazingly or horrible, or whether you don't go out on stage because you're too scared, these 2 or 3 hours that people have cut out in their calendar to see the show, they're just going to pass either way. So just go do your best and enjoy it as good as you can. So this is something that goes through my head a lot, especially with like extremely high performances. Yeah, and often it's also just a lot of excitement. Like this winter, I had the big pleasure to sing an opera in Bonn, where I'm currently in the ensemble, a very unknown opera with an a beautiful high coloratura part in it. It's called Die Ameise, the ant. And I had a really luxurious part in it. Like, I could show off all the coloraturas and all the high notes in the world. And also the role was complex. It was fun to play, but also with a lot of depth. So it was really an extremely beautiful production for me. And the music was incredible. And my first entrance there was actually me kind of being crouched behind the piano, and the piano was being pushed in, and people couldn't see me, and then I would have to kind of pop out in behind the piano. And I remember every time, like, they pushed me out because the music also was extremely tense in that moment, extremely dramatic. It was like building up the tension, and I was like being pushed in with this piano. I was always like, yes. It was like, just, I loved it so much. It's an extremely enjoyable job, like the part where we get to go out on stage, for sure.
Do you have a dream role that you haven't been able to sing yet, but that you hope you will get the chance to?
Yes. I have many. My number one is definitely Lucia di Lammermoor. I got to cover it when I was in the academy at La Scala. The Scala let the singers in the academy cover the rehearsals for some roles, and I was the lucky one who got to cover Lucia di Lammermoor for Lisetto Oropesa, which was one of the best experiences of my life. I learned so much in there. My voice really unfolded in this role in a way that I really didn't expect to, because up to that point I was in this extremely high repertoire, but in an even higher one, like in a very brilliant one. Like, I did Queen of the Night, I did Lakme, I did Ophelia, like a lot of French and German repertoire. And I did not expect to grow so much into this role, or that this role would give me so much growth. It's definitely one that scares a lot of sopranos, Lucia, because it's also a very intense role, dramatic, not in the sense of like heavy, but she just goes through so much emotionally. So you have to give it your all out there, but it's still like also technically difficult to master. There is a lot of obviously, yes, a lot of coloratura and high notes, but the part that we cannot, that we need to consider as well is all the parts where she's more like in the middle range, very lyrical, where she sings all these intense duets with her brother, with Edgardo, that are beautiful and intense and psychologically so interesting. So I remember when they gave that to me at first, I was a bit scared, but then I was like, it was another moment where you're just like, well, it doesn't matter that you're scared. You're just going to do it. You're just going to throw yourself into it. It was like, you can't afford to be scared right now, and you can't afford to doubt yourself right now. There's no time. There is no space for that. You will just have to really throw yourself in there. And then I was so surprised to see how it works. And it was an amazing experience, because when you're studying, often you approach a lot of roles with a lot of caution. There is always this, let's see what happens, let's see if it fits, and if it doesn't, we just set it aside, which is definitely a good approach. But of course, it can also sometimes, maybe you don't really explore your full potential. And when you're in a situation like that, where you're just like, well, I will just have to really throw myself in there. That's all I can do. You sometimes discover things about yourself that you didn't know or weren't aware of. And that was definitely a turning point for me vocally to cover that. And it was an incredible experience. I got to sing the Mad Scene in one of the orchestra rehearsals, like with the full orchestra on stage with the chorus, which of course was also a moment where I was like shaking in my boots a lot. But then I just really threw myself in, and it was incredible. And ever since then, it was definitely my number one dream role. But there are a lot of amazing roles, and I know that I will always have one, no matter how many I debut. I dreamt of the Queen of the Night for a long time, and I got to do that, and I'm so grateful for it. There is Violetta, which is beautiful, from La Traviata. There is Constanze in Entführung aus dem Serail. There is Marie from Fille du Régiment. Donna Anna by Don Giovanni. Like, there is so many amazing roles. So there will always be one. Yes.
And the nice thing is you're such a young singer, so you can look forward to all of these roles with excitement. And I can't wait to follow your journey and see you actually performing these roles.
I really hope so. I also realized in the last couple of days, I mean, that's also a nice thing, a hard thing, but also a nice thing about this job, that you keep reflecting on life. Like you get really into life philosophy because you have to cope with a lot of things. And I did realize at some point, I mean, it is my absolute dream. But it also, when I thought about why, and I was thinking about, yes, I have this incredible memory of covering it and like outgrowing myself. So it's also about this kind of feeling, this kind of thrill to really unfold and flourish into a part, to really feel like there is a part of yourself that you can completely pour into this role, like with all the experiences you've made yourself. And I did also realize it's a nice thing to realize, like I can probably do that with any role that comes my way. So while, of course, I do have my dream roles and my goals, I also love this realization of thinking I will feel fulfilled with many, many, many roles, with probably every role that I get to do. If it is, of course, like singable for me and all of that, but yeah, that's the beauty of the job. And sometimes you will also be surprised. Like sometimes roles that you didn't think would be such a fuel for you turn out to be just that. And that I think that is amazing.
I feel like we've really only scratched the surface of what we could talk about in regards to your profession, to the opera world in general. But perhaps I'll ask one last question. And the question I'm going to ask is, what would you tell people who have never been to the opera? Why would you tell them to go?
I would tell them to go because it is a timeless art form. It represents 900 years of history, of struggles, of questions, of wonders, of longing, of all the people that lived through all of these times. And it actually shows beautifully how, while of course humans as a society evolve, like they stay the same at the core. And I mean, this is something we keep exploring and expressing in many ways, right? I mean, be it to build bridges in cultural differences, in societal differences, but in the opera world, you can also see it in like the time differences. You see that people 500 years ago had heartache, were scared, were lost, were wondering what to do with their lives, how to apply themselves, how to tribute to life, to the world, to the time they've been given. All these things that just show that the core of being a human always stays the same. What I really love about it is also that in opera, the figures or the characters are really allowed to fully fall into these emotions in such a pure way that I think we don't really allow ourselves in an everyday life. Like in opera, they actually do, in a very pure way, say things like, I cannot live without you, or I love you so much I will never be able to think of anything else or do anything else. Like these very extreme feelings that we all, in a way, probably know, but still we're always like, oh, but we have bills to pay. Like, of course I have to go to work, you know? So to kind of let someone else really give this very raw, pure emotion that has so little space in our everyday life, I think is something extremely powerful and important. I often experience people like crying in the opera. I myself cry a lot in the opera. And it's just something very important, I feel.
Beautifully said. I couldn't have added anything. No, one thing I can add. Take that, Timothée Chalamet.
Poor Timothy.
No, let's ignore him.
See it coming.
No, but anyway, Nicole, for people who want to hear more of your singing, want to follow your career, where can they find you?
Definitely on Instagram. Like there, I'm best at updating Instagram, like also with like dates of performances. They're all on there.
What is your handle?
Nicole Wacker, like my name, but I just have a double R in the end, like Nicole Wacker, because the regular one was taken.
I'll make sure to link it beneath the episode
Yes.
so people can find you.
So there, for sure, there you can find the most, also like little videos, little excerpts. I also have a page on Facebook that lots of stuff is the same with Instagram. I also have a website where you can also contact me if you would be interested in any sort of collaboration. And I do my best to keep it updated. But yeah, I don't always succeed. But there is a web page as well. There is Opera Base, which is good for any kind of, like, it's an amazing database for any kind of opera singer that you're interested in to see where they perform or what they've been doing. So yeah, that's where you can keep up with me.
Thank you so much, Nicole, for coming onto the podcast. I'm so glad we managed because you're traveling all the time. You're really busy singing, and it was such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for inviting me. It was a pleasure talking to you.
If you enjoyed this episode, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing.